Hello friends, welcome to your own channel. In this video, we'll be seeing about how do you set up your own hacking lab in a home environment, that is on your personal computer or a personal laptop, right? So why do you want to create your own lab on hacking? So basically, hacking is a kind of is a skill through which you are always having a risk when you try to perform or when you try to practice your hacking skills over a real-time websites or a real-time computers, right? That's why it's always better to set up your own lab on which you can practice your hacking skills, thereby without causing any harm to any other person, right? So that's the reason why we go behind creating our own lab on our personal computer. So the very first thing that comes into our mind as a requirement while creating a lab is your hardware requirements. So the hardware requirements for creating or setting up a lab on your own computer is basically you would require at least a processor with the capability of i5 or i3 processing speed with a processing power and at least 8 GB of RAM in your computer. So you could also use the lower grade processor or any RAM within 4 GB or something like before within 8 GB, something like 4 GB or 6 over there. But it would sometimes it would create a lag, or it would cause a lag while working on with your lab. So that's why I would typically recommend 8 GB of RAM so that you have a decent working speed and a working experience. Along with that, you would also require 250 GB of free space in a hard disk. No matter whatever is your size of a hard disk, whether it is 1 TB or 500 GB or whatever it is, you would require at least 250 GB of free space in it. So if you have just 250 GB of free space, that's perfectly okay for creating your lab. Along with that, you would require a decent network connection. When I mean decent network connection, you do not require some fancy 100 Gbps connection or a 50 Gbps broadband connection. Not like that. You would require at least a 1 Mbps or 2 Mbps network connection, or a home network, or if you're feeling that you could use a mobile hotspot, that's also perfectly fine as long as it's on Wi-Fi or Ethernet or something like that. Okay, so in terms of hardware, these are the only requirements. Along with that, some processor do come with also all the latest processor comes up with virtualization enabled, but if you go with the older versions of processor, they do not have virtualization. So you have to make sure that you're enabling virtualization on your BIOS mode. So there's lots of articles and videos across YouTube and Google, so that I'm not going to be fetching out into that part. So all you need to do is you have to enable virtualization in your BIOS setting so that you can install any hypervisor on it. Okay, so before going into actual setting up a lab, you would also require tools. That is the tools that we require to create your own hacking lab. So basically, the tools that you require are very few. You do not require any fancy paid versions of tools. So very first and foremost that you require is your virtual box or your VMware. In common we call it as an hypervisor. Now why do you require a hypervisor? So basically, when you want to practice any hacking activity, you always require at least two missions. So one would be your hacker mission or attacker mission, and you would be having the victim. So obviously there are two computers involved in any hacking activity, at least two computers, isn't it? So in that process, you cannot afford that. Like, it's not like efficient to afford two different computers, buying two computers and working on it, right? So that's the reason why we will use the hypervisor to create logically two missions in your single computer, which means hypervisor is a software layer which sits upon your actual hardware, and so that it can support of installing multiple operating system in your single computer, which means in a layman's term, you could use your computer, or you could use your personal computer or a laptop, a single computer, to create multiple operating systems, or you can install multiple operating systems in a single computer with the help of VirtualBox. So this would be VirtualBox would create a logical environment or a logical CPU inside your computer so that you can install the multiple operating systems in it. So that's what basically a hypervisor is. So hypervisor is a concept, and there are various tools in it or softwares that comes up in hypervisor. One of the very major market leaders are your VMware, but obviously it's a paid tool. So that's the reason I would typically support or I would follow VirtualBox because it's open source tool. So right, and it's for free, obviously. So that's the reason I would suggest a VirtualBox. It gives all the things that you require. So I would always use the VirtualBox for my videos, right? So this is a very first tool that you would be requiring. The next tool that you will be requiring is your attacker mission. So obviously your attacker mission would be Kali Linux in my case. So but it does not limit you to use only Kali Linux. You could typically use any hacking distribution. You could use ParrotSec or Backbox or any hacking distribution that you would like. Along with that, you would be obviously requiring victim missions. I would suggest to use at least 2 victim missions, one of any vulnerable Windows mission and any vulnerable Linux mission, so that you can practice and you have a knowledge or a skill set on both hacking on Windows mission as well as with Linux mission. Okay, so for a Windows victim mission, I would utilize Windows 7. So obviously Windows 7 is not in the current scenario in a current supported list of Microsoft, but still I would use Windows 7 is because we are after all we are going to learn how to hack, right? So we need vulnerable missions on it. So that's the reason why I would be using victim mission as a Windows 7. Now coming to a vulnerable Linux mission, and I'm going to be using a Metasploitable 2, which is a vulnerable Linux mission. Now you could find all these tools that is required here in the following website. I would be giving this link in the description below, and you can download all the required tools from this particular website. So obviously don't need to worry, they do not contain any malware. I'm just redirecting everything into their official website. So I've just created this page so that you have a one point of contact for downloading all the required tools. Now you can download your VirtualBox or VMware directly from their official website. Along with that, you could download Windows 7, which is actually a virtual image that was created by myself again. So obviously it's a very plain Windows 7. I've just installed it, not even a single tool in it, right? So just unpatched Windows 7, that's it, right? So and it does contain a password. The password of the mission is Windows 7 itself. And you would also require Kali Linux mission, so you could get both ISO and virtual images on it. I would typically suggest to use virtual images because in case if you are a newbie for a Linux environment, I would purely suggest you to go behind a virtual image rather than going and installing a ISO image or a typical image on your typical operating system on your actual computer. So in this case, you can download its VirtualBox from a torrent or directly, or in case if you like VMware, you could download it here. Okay, so coming to Metasploitable, you could also go and download Metasploitable from this link, and even Metasploitable will have the credentials MSF-admin and MSF-admin. You could use that one as well. Right, you could just wait and download this file. In my case, I've already downloaded all the required tools, so hence I would not be downloading it. Similarly, for all the 3 operating systems, I have provided the respective passwords. You could see the Windows 7 is a password for Windows 7, Kali is a username and password for Kali, and MSF-admin is a username and password for Metasploitable 2. Okay, so these are the required tools. Now, before actually going into the missions or steps of understanding this, before doing that, let us understand the architecture, how this lab would be created. Okay, so this lab is going to be created on the following architecture. So basically your typical PC or a laptop would be a host machine, right? So basically your host machine could be a Windows 10 computer or a Windows 8 or any typical computer. There are a few people who are from a Linux geek guys, so I'm just one like me, I'm just one of that Linux guy. So I am using a Linux. So similarly, you can use any base operating system, or in some context, we also call it as host operating system. So this could be either a Windows or Unix. Upon top of that, we typically use or install a hypervisor. You could download VirtualBox and VMware on it. So That's it. So that's the second layer. And after that, you would be installing or importing these operating systems like Kali Linux for attacker, Windows 7 for victim 1, and Metasploitable for victim 2. Now, what is this connectivity? So obviously, when you're creating multiple operating systems, the ideology of creating this lab is basically to practice your hacking skills, isn't it? So when you're practicing your hacking skills, obviously there should be a connectivity between, or a network connectivity between an attacker and a victim machine, isn't it? Now we are creating the missions on virtual environment. Obviously, it's the job of us to provide the connectivity. So usually this connectivity, I would suggest to keep it on bridge mode or NAT mode. So the difference between bridge mode and NAT mode is that when you use a bridge mode, all those virtual machines or your guest operating systems would be using the network adapter of the host machine, which means your obviously your laptop or desktop would be using Ethernet cable or Ethernet adapter or a Wi-Fi adapter, right? So when you select bridge mode, these guest operating system would be using those actual Wi-Fi or actual Ethernet adapter, and it would be communicating with your host machine. You could also use NAT. So NAT is basically network address translation. In a layman's term for VirtualBox, what it would do is it would create a small network between these three computers only, right? So when you create NAT network, so in a practical example, what happens when you select bridge mode is that when you select bridge mode on all the three computers, what happens is that your Kali Linux machine, Windows 7 machine, Metasploitable 2 machine, and your host computer, whatever it is, whether it's Windows or Linux, all the four machine would be on a same network, right? But if you use NAT on all the three machine, so your Kali Linux machine, Windows 7 and Metasploitable, all the three would be on a same network, whereas Windows, the host machine would be on a different network. So NAT is like creating an internal network for these guest operating systems, right? So I hope you understand about the bridge network and NAT network. So in case if you have any queries, guys, you could always punch in your queries in the chat box or the comment box, and you could also get back to us on our WhatsApp group or a Telegram group, whose link is provided in the description, right? So let's go back. I hope it's pretty much clear so far. Let's go for the practical and see about how do you import this. As I said, I've already downloaded all the required tools. One more thing to add up in architecture, in my case, so in generic for all the people, you would either be using a Windows machine. I think majority people would be using Windows as your base operating system. In my case, I am using Kali Linux machine itself as a base operating systems. Hence, in my example, what I'm going to be showing you, I would be directly installing only or importing only Windows 7 and Metasploitable 2. I would not be importing Kali Linux. But in real case, in your example, you would also require to import Kali Linux as well, because I would keep it as an example for you. At least you need to also practice it. So please let me know. The procedure part would be the same thing as you import Windows 7. So you will not face any issues in it. If at all, if you face any issues, please let me know that in the WhatsApp group or the comment box in the YouTube. Right? So I have already downloaded all the required tools. So the first step would be to download and install your hypervisor, that is your VirtualBox. So first you have to make sure you are installing the VirtualBox. So here in my current case, as of the day I am recording this video, the VirtualBox 6.1 is the latest version. So I have already installed my VirtualBox. Okay. The first checkbox is you have to install the VirtualBox. Clear? So we are installing the hypervisor first. Now I already have attacker machine, so I'll skip the attacker machine. So that is my base operating system. Now let's go to the victim machine 1, that is my Windows 7. Now as you can see, I've already downloaded the Win7 OVF file and it's already located in my folder. So in order to import it, you don't need to do anything that is major or advanced thing. You just need to double click this file. That's it. So just double click this file, but be aware that before double clicking it, you have to make sure you have already installed the VirtualBox on it. So once you have already installed VirtualBox, and if you double click on the .ovf file that is on Windows 7, so this would automatically show you the importing console. As you can see, it is showing me the importing console where you can edit any options. So in my case, I have only changed the name to Win7 to Windows 7 victim #1. If you want, you can also change your RAM size. I would recommend to use a 2 GB of RAM space. That would be pretty much good and efficient for you guys. That's the only thing that you require to change. Nothing you want to change. Anything that you want to change in future can be changeable after importing it. So all you need to do now is just click on import. So this would take a couple of minutes. So usually VirtualBox is simulating a real world CPU. So it will take the process of installing this and setting up a hard disk, partitioning, installing the operating system, and a lot more things. So this would take approximately 5 to 6 minutes or something below 10 minutes. It would not go more than 10 minutes unless until you are doing something else in your computer. So you just need to wait for another 5 to 6 minutes or approximately max 10 minutes. So it will do the job and give you up. So since it will consume a bit of time, so let me pause the video and get back to you, and I'll resume back the video once the importing is completely done, guys. So now the images successfully have been imported. So before even starting the image or starting the mission, so first let us configure the network. As I said, it's better to use a NAT or a bridge mode. So let us use that mode. So to select your mode, you just need to click on the settings. After selecting the image, it would give you the settings options of here. We have various settings to change your CPU size, CPU number of CPUs, or the RAM size, storage, audio, all those settings. In this case, we are interested about the network. By default, all the network would be attached to NAT, but I would prefer to be on a bridge network so that it avails the efficiency to some level, just like instead of NAT. So bridge would work perfectly fine. So in my case, I'm using this VirtualBox over Kali Linux machine. So in case if you're using any Unix based machines like Kali Linux or Ubuntu, under bridge adapter you would get these adapters by name WLAN 0 or ETH zeros. If you're using Windows based machines, you would get your adapters, wireless adapters or Ethernet adapter. Basically, it's nothing but your Ethernet adapter, the LAN cable adapter, or your Wi-Fi. So you just need to select whatever you're connected with. So in case if you're using a PC or a laptop and you have used your Ethernet cable to connect to the network, it's better to use ETH0 or Ethernet cable. In case if you have connected to the network via Wi-Fi, then WLAN 0 or wireless would be better one. So in my case, as you can see, I have connected via the Wi-Fi, so I'm going to be using a WLAN 0 over here, right? That's it, you have to do it. So just have selected, I've changed the network settings, and you can just double click or select the image and click on start to start that particular mission, right? So in the very first time when you have recently imported the image, so it would take a bit of time because it has to be settled in the environment. So it will take a bit of time to get adjusted to it. For the first time, it may ask you to restart your computer, not the host, but the this virtual machine or the guest operating system. So just log in and restart it. So as you can see, it is asking for password. So the password I've already shared you guys in the UI in the article. The password for Windows 7 is Windows 7 itself. And as you can see, it is successfully imported. So first time it will ask you to restart. You can see it's installing all the drivers, and it should ask you for restart. Sometimes you get restart, it will ask you for restart, sometimes it may not. I can see it's asking for restart. Just restart now. So this will make sure all the installed components will automatically get installed. That's the only reason why it asks you for restarting the operating system. And only for the first time it may take a bit of time for restarting. After that it may not take much time because obviously it's a virtual environment. It does not depend any physical component, so obviously it would be a bit faster. as long as you have given your actual CPU and your RAM is pretty faster. So if you give 2 GB RAM and your host operating system consumes 8 GB of RAM, obviously it will be pretty faster. So once it's again restarts, log in into the machine, and yep, you can see. And I would recommend you guys to go to the device and use guest additions. So basically this guest addition is nothing but as similar to when you install an operating system on your physical computer or laptop. We would generally install drivers for Windows machines, right? So that's what guest addition is. It will ask you to download. I would recommend you guys to download and install it. So the installation is very basic. Just a next. It will automatically get restarted. And after installation, it would ask you for restart the operating system. Certain time it may ask you to accept few certificates. Except that everything is perfectly as usual. So in my case, I'm not going to be downloading and installing it because it's already there in my other image. So I do not want to. I would not want to install it already, but I would recommend for you all you guys that you install the guest edition. So once everything is ready, you have already installed guest edition and everything. Make sure you check its IP address. Since we have given a bridge mode, obviously my host operating system and this should be on the same network. Let me check my IP address, and you can see in my IP address is 43.7 and the guest operating system is 43.120, which means both on a same subnet. Now just to check whether if I'm having a connectivity or not, let me try to ping the client machine. So the guest machine, sorry, I'm pinging my own machine, sorry for that. So 120, yep, it's not pinging. So this again issues faced by few category of people, and so for few missions you may get imported. I just tried a few minutes ago, it was perfectly pinging. So this is very common in missions. So this is because certain operating systems may have firewall enabled by default, and when you enable firewall by default, ping and the connectivity may not be available to the victim machine. So that's to the attacker machine. So it's always better to go to the control panel once you install. This only happens on Windows 7 and only for certain people, not for everyone. So go to control panel, go to system and security, and go for check firewall status. And here it's currently connected to the network. If the firewall is turned on, go to Windows firewall on and off option and turn off your firewall, and this should do the job for you. So the moment you can click on to firewall turn off, you can see in the left side the ping is happening after I turn off my firewall. Now, why do you want to put on a firewall? The pure example of that, the pure reason for that is when you turn on firewall for certain operating systems, if it's not updated up to date, the machines will block ICMP protocols through which the other machines cannot do ping, right? So that's why if you turn off the firewall, the ICMP protocols will be enabled. Again, it's only happens on certain operating systems which is not up to date. Obviously, the Windows 7 is not up to date. It's vulnerable in nature. So that's why we have to manually go and turn off the firewall. As I said, this only happens for few people, for not for all. So in case if it's try to ping it, and if it is pinging, that's perfectly fine. If it is not pinging, then go to firewall and turn off the firewall. Okay, just to give another insight, let me also do port scan, so that let's see that it's connectivity or not, the connectivity is good or not, and you can see the connectivity is open. This means my host machine can communicate with my guest machine. Okay, so I hope so far it's pretty much clear about how do you import and install a how do you install a Windows 7 machine over the VirtualBox network. So we have successfully installed a victim one machine. You can also try to ping back to the attacker. That's perfectly fine. So it will be the same thing even for Kali Linux. Even for Kali Linux, you need to, in case if you are importing Kali Linux on your VirtualBox, which I would suggest, it's the same procedure. Download, double click, and that's it. You don't even need to install guest edition for the latest Kali Linux. It's all done by default. Okay, so by now we have successfully, it's pretty much, I think it's pretty much clear that how do you install these components, and we've already installed VirtualBox in VirtualBox Windows 7 machine, and that's pretty much clear. So I hope forward is pretty much clear. In case if you have any queries, guys, you can punch in the queries in the comment box below, or you could also punch in your queries in the WhatsApp group, whose link is available in the description. Now let's see how do you import a Metasploitable 2 machines. Now Windows 7 was actually exported from a VirtualBox. That's why it was pretty easy for us. Just a double click would have worked perfectly fine. But your Metasploitable 2 is not created on VirtualBox. It was created from or exported from a virtual machine. So if you are importing it on virtual machine, in that case, just a double click would work perfectly fine, or automatically get imported as it was happening on VirtualBox. But since we are importing it on VirtualBox, so the steps would be as follows. So to import any images that was exported from VirtualBox virtual machine onto VirtualBox, you could follow the same procedure. That is, you need to go to machine and then new, and you need to give some name for it. Let me give MSFI_2, and then select for the type, select Linux, and version, select Ubuntu 64-bit. So why we are doing this is because this machine was actually exported from Metasploit from a virtual machine, and since we are importing on VirtualBox, we have to manually create the settings, right? So we have given the name, the type, and the version. After that, you need to select the RAM space, or whatever RAM you want to provide. So in my case, I am giving 1 GB of RAM. So obviously, if you have 8 GB of RAM space, you could use 1 GB. Or if you are if you're feeling a bit laggy, then even 512 MB will work perfectly even for a Metasploitable. But for Windows 7, we have to give at least 1.5 GB to 2 GBs. But for Metasploitable, you can bear with 512 MB as well. Okay, so we gave the information here, and over here we provided the RAM, and the next option is where we select the hard disk. So when you come to this option, you need to select the third option from here, that is use an existing virtual hard disk file, and select your importing file, and here you would get the imported folder. So since I have various applications in my system, so it's already populated, but in your case it would be empty. So click on add and navigate to the folder on which you have downloaded and extracted this image file. In my case, in this location, I've already downloaded and extracted this file. So open that particular folder and open the VMDK file. Okay, select the VMDK file. It would be available in the list, and select the newly imported file and click on choose. So it will automatically import the hard disk image. So basically this is nothing but a virtual hard disk image. Okay, and then click on create. That's perfectly enough, and that's how you create or import a virtual machine file inside a VirtualBox environment. Now, as we did with VirtualBox, we also need to configure the network. So hence you can right click over the image, or you could select the image and click on settings over here. This would open up your settings console, where if you want you can change other settings, but in my case I'm going to be only setting the network. So as you can see, I'm just selecting the bridge adapter, and as usual I'm selecting the WLAN 0 because my connectivity is happening via a Wi-Fi network. Okay, so this will not take much time as it was taking in Windows 7 file, because this is purely a Unix environment, and also you do not require to install any guest edition in these machines. That's because obviously this is loaded up with drivers by default on it. You can see it's already loading with hardware drivers. I do not require to install guest editions. So usually the dependency of drivers are most commonly used for Windows by default. For Linux, most of the operating systems do come up with the default drivers. Obviously, yes, if you're using some latest machines, you would get driver issues, but yes, that depends, that varies depending upon operating system to operating system. In a few seconds, this machine would be up, and the credentials for that is again available in the blog that I've shared you guys. So it will take a few seconds, and because this is a server, so it would initiate all the requiring components in it. And yes, you can see it's logged up. And let me open up msfadmin and type password as msfadmin. In Unix, what happens is when you type password, it does not echo back, not even asterisk. So no worries, you will get the data. And if you see the password IP, the IP is 192.168.43.26. Just like we did with Linux, Windows, we'll also do a ping from my host machine. So there is no issue of firewall, so this will be completely working fine. So as you can see, the ping is happening. Just for the sake of port scanning, let me just do a simple port scan for these two ports. Since I'm already knowing this, I'm doing this, but generally you can do a normal port scan. It's perfectly okay. By doing a ping and by doing a simple port scan, we confirm that we have a connectivity between both your victim machine and a attacker machine. Okay, so let me power off this machine. So sudo power off is a command to power off the operating system because it's a Unix based operating system. So by now you might have been cleared about how do you create your own lab with the help of VirtualBox and a couple of vulnerable machines onto it, right? So this gives you a complete idea about how do you create on it. So this is very simple and it's not like something like a rocket science. Just to add one more trick to you all guys, so I'll show you about one more trick for everyone. So that so what happens generally in VirtualBox, so the ideology itself, why we are creating these many things on VirtualBox is that by just in case we misperform any actions or we may lead into crashing of a system, it would be hard for us to recover the loss, right? The same thing happens even on a VirtualBox as well. So while doing some attack, there might be possible that you may crash the operating system or you delete some file which would take the system is completely inaccessible. So in order to prevent that, what we do is we can use that snapshot technique, which means once you feel your computer is completely ready now to work on, your victim machines are completely ready to work on, what you could do is you can select the image and click over the camera icon over here, which is named as take. Just click on take. It would take up a snapshot. Now the snapshot is nothing but an image. What it does is whatever the current state of the machine is, it will take a snapshot of the or a image of that particular instance and it will lock that in a current state. So in my case, let me put starting. And then okay. So what happens now is it will keep the starting state as the initial place, and it will give us one step ahead image, which means now I'll do whatever I want, I can do it. So in case if I crash a system or if I do some manipulation in my system, and due to that manipulation my system get corrupted, my operating system gets corrupted. In that case, what I could do is I can come back to this, I can turn off the operating system and I can come back to the same place and then click on starting. I can do restore over here. This will take back, or it will move that corrupted operating system into the initial way how my system was perfectly ready. So to whatever state I have taken a snapshot, to that state it will bring me back. This also includes your file system. Okay, so I hope the snapshot part is also pretty much clear with everyone. What I typically suggest everyone is at least take two snapshots, one with the starting and one as a backup. So just in case if you do some mistake with backup, obviously you will have another image which will help you in getting things done. I usually have, whenever I have missions, I would typically take two snapshots just in case if I do some actions and due to that my systems get corrupted. By this way, in case even if your system gets corrupted, you no longer need to reinstall or re-download and work and re-import your files. It would completely be solved. Okay, so by now I hope you might have having an idea about how do you set up your own labs with just a basic tools and a free tools. Obviously, except your internet, you're not spending a single penny on it, as long as you have your usual computers and the required internet connection on it, right? So all the tools that you require are available in the following blog post. You can download all those tools, that's perfectly free of cost. So and all the required information is also provided over here. so you can follow it. So in case if you just missed anything, you can go back to the video and view it. And in case if you have any queries, you can raise a query in the below comment box, or you can find our WhatsApp group on your description, and you can join it. And in case if you have any queries, you can also point out your queries even on the WhatsApp group as well. Okay guys, I think so far it was pretty much clear for everyone. So in case if you like this video, kindly like the video on the YouTube again and share it with across your friends. So obviously it would help them about these topics. And again guys, in case if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, so kindly subscribe to our channel and press on the notification icon or the bell icon, so that whenever we upload any new videos on hacking topics, so you would get notified, and you would be pretty much updated. So I'm also thinking of setting up or providing walkthroughs on various CTFs. So that will be uploaded time to time. So that's it for this today's videos, guys, and see you all guys in the next video. So see you all guys in the next video again, and happy hacking, guys, for everyone.